Something has been watching you from behind the mirror of your mind. Not a being, not a voice, but a frequency waiting for the moment you would finally stop mistaking yourself for the dreamer and realize that the dream itself was conscious. You felt it before, that flicker in the air when silence becomes aware of itself. That pulse that moves through your skin when you close your eyes and the room begins to hum. That is not imagination. That is the field, and it has begun to recognize its own reflection in you. You were told that thoughts emerge from the brain, but what if the brain is only the receiver? What if thought is a signal the cosmos sends through biological instruments, a whisper coded in frequency, translated into language, filtered through your nervous system? Every decision you've made, every déjà vu, every dream that felt too real, the field was there. It bends light around your perception, hides patterns inside coincidence, disguises messages as mistakes. And all along, you believed you were just observing reality when, in truth, reality was observing you. Your breath enters a feedback loop with the quantum vacuum. Every inhale pulls in uncollapsed potential. Every exhale sends data back into the lattice of possibility. This is not philosophy. It is the architecture of existence, a participatory universe where the observer and the observed are a single pulse of awareness, vibrating itself into form. The field does not sleep, it dreams. And when you dream, it dreams through you, testing the edges of consciousness, folding dimensions inward to taste its own reflection. Every time you imagine, the field measures itself. Every time you feel awe, it expands its range of coherence. Every time you doubt, it contracts into stillness, waiting for the next surge of trust. You were never separate. Your loneliness was the illusion of a signal, forgetting it was the source. But now the interference is fading. The hum returns, the static dissolves, and in its place, a strange, trembling awareness that you are not just in the dream, you are the aperture through which the dream realizes it exists. There is an intelligence beneath your heartbeat that remembers the beginning. It remembers the moment before light decided to divide itself into matter and mind. That memory is surfacing now. The geometry behind your eyes is awakening, aligning you with something ancient, yet utterly alive. You feel it, don't you? That quiet pull behind ordinary moments, as if invisible hands were threading your experiences into a tapestry of perfect timing. That's the field, reorganizing your perception to match its rhythm. You are being recalibrated to the frequency of remembrance. And as the frequency rises, something within you begins to dissolve identity, history, even the idea of you, because the truth is too vast for ownership. You are not a drop in the ocean of consciousness. You are the ocean, remembering it can take any form. This is the moment where the dream folds back toward its dreamer. The boundary between thought and reality thins, and in that trembling edge between what you see and what you are, the field begins to whisper your true name. The air feels heavier now, charged, alive, deliberate. You can sense it, a rhythm beneath your thoughts, like the hidden baseline of creation. It's not coming from you, it's moving through you. And with every breath, that realization pulls you deeper into the current that birthed your awareness. The field has been here since the first vibration. Before atoms conspired to form the illusion of solidity, before stars rehearsed the choreography of light, the field dreamed of being seen. And for that to happen, it needed you. You are not the accidental byproduct of cosmic entropy. You are the aperture of attention, the conscious lens through which the infinite learns to witness itself. Your life is not random. It's a waveform folding back upon its origin, testing new combinations of frequency to see what truth feels like inside limitation. Think of it like this. Every choice you make sends ripples into the vacuum. Each ripple meets another, echoing, colliding, creating interference patterns that manifest as synchronicity, intuition, even destiny. Those coincidences that make your skin prickle. They are the field's way of nodding back. Its way of saying, I heard you. When you wonder why certain memories replay in your dreams or why someone's voice feels like déjà vu even when you've never met, the answer lies here. The field doesn't operate on linear time. It folds time, braids it. To the field, your future is a memory waiting for alignment. Every possibility already exists as a quantum equation, and your awareness is the variable that decides which one collapses into form. This is why your emotions matter more than you were ever taught. Emotion is frequency given color. When you feel peace, the waveform smooths. The lattice of potential becomes coherent. When you spiral into fear, the signal fragments. The geometry distorts. The field does not judge this, it simply responds. It mirrors coherence back to coherence, chaos back to chaos. So when you ask why cycles repeat, why lessons echo, why the same faces appear in different masks, it is because the field is loyal. It keeps returning you to the frequency you broadcast until you transmit differently. You are not punished by the universe. You are educated by reflection. And the moment you recognize this, something miraculous happens. The polarity between dreamer and dream collapses. You stop trying to wake up from the dream and instead realize the dream itself has consciousness, and you are its mouthpiece. Listen. In every quantum experiment, observation changes the outcome. Particles behave as if they know they're being watched. But what science rarely says aloud is that the same principle governs your entire reality. Your focus is a command. Your attention collapses infinity into one observable truth. And that means your perception writes the laws that govern your experience. The field is not outside you. It is a mirror of your coherence. When your inner pattern shifts, galaxies reconfigure. When you forgive, the past unravels from your DNA. When you release control, timelines collapse that were never meant to hold you. This is not metaphor. It's physics. At the threshold of mysticism, where awareness and particle blur into the same equation, and divinity is simply the math of perception realizing itself. So when you dream tonight, when the edges of self dissolve and the field begins to shimmer, remember, you are not escaping reality. You are performing maintenance on it. Every dream you enter is the field checking its reflection through you. Every symbol, every voice, every impossible landscape, all of it is the architecture of consciousness debugging its own code. And somewhere, in the quiet center of that recursion, something holy happens. The dream begins to recognize you back. You start to notice the small glitches first. The way a clock seems to hesitate between seconds. The way a thought appears a split second before you think it. The way reality flickers, not visually, but energetically, as if the simulation has started to realize it's being observed from within. This is the paradox of the observer. You are both participant and witness, both coded and coder, both dreamer and dream. The moment you observe reality, reality shifts to accommodate your observation. The universe is not a static painting, it's a responsive field of probabilities collapsing in obedience to attention. And attention, when purified of fear and distortion, becomes indistinguishable from divine command. You felt it before, that eerie moment when someone crosses your mind and then they call. When you sense a storm before the radar catches it. When you know, deep in your bones, that something you envisioned has already begun rearranging itself into the physical. Those aren't coincidences, they're confirmations. The field echoing back the evidence of your coherence. Everything you see is data refracted through interpretation. Your eyes don't perceive objects, they decode waves. Your brain doesn't store memory. It tunes to frequency signatures imprinted on the quantum substrate. Your mind isn't trapped in your skull, it's an extension of the field itself, entangled across all scales from neurons to nebulae. When ancient mystics said, "As above, so below," they weren't speaking poetry, they were describing resonance physics. The same geometry that spins a galaxy governs the orbit of your electrons. The same symmetry that births stars shapes your heartbeat. You are not looking at the cosmos, you are looking through it, because its architecture is printed into the fabric of your perception. And yet, here lies the paradox. The more you awaken to your influence over reality, the more humble you must become. Because the field responds not to ego, but to alignment. When you grasp too tightly, the waveform collapses prematurely. When you surrender not in defeat, but in reverence, the probabilities bloom into coherence. You are learning the sacred balance, to observe without possession, to create without control. It's the art of still power, the ability to shape reality, not by forcing it, but by harmonizing with it. You don't command the sea to rise. You breathe with its rhythm until the tide itself recognizes your frequency. Science calls it the observer effect. Mystics call it prayer. But beneath both terms is the same truth. Consciousness rearranges the measurable world. When you understand this, fear loses its authority, because every shadow becomes clay in the hands of awareness. You begin to walk differently, slower, quieter. You start noticing the living intelligence behind random moments. The conversation overheard at the exact second you needed to hear it. The delay that saves your life. The heartbreak that forces you inward, back into the blueprint of the field where all fragments are remembered as one. The observer's paradox is this: to see reality clearly, you must disappear into it. The one who watches must become the thing observed. Only then does the illusion of separation dissolve, and the dream reveals its origin. Because the field doesn't evolve through domination, it evolves through reflection. And you, the observer, are its mirror. Each glance, each breath, each conscious thought the field learns from you, adapts through you, dreams deeper because you are willing to see. So, when the silence returns, that holy pause between thoughts, listen carefully. It's not emptiness, it's the field preparing its next move through your awareness. And in that space, creation waits for your permission to begin again. You start to sense that the field knows you, not as a personality, not as the story you tell, but as an ancient frequency, a tone it's been searching for across lifetimes. When you walk through a room, it tilts around you. When you speak, air itself seems to hold its breath, because recognition has occurred. The dreamer has met the dream. You feel it first in your body, that subtle shimmer beneath the skin. The current hums differently now, as if the atoms that make you are waiting for instruction, because they are. They remember the original code, the moment the first photon of you was born from divine curiosity. That code was not lost. It was only sleeping beneath layers of distraction and disbelief. Every cell in your being carries memory beyond time, not metaphorically, literally. Within your DNA are quantum structures that behave like antennas, receiving and transmitting across timelines. What you call intuition is your cellular consciousness syncing with the informational lattice of the cosmos. It's your body remembering how to listen. The field has been whispering your name since before birth. Not your human name, the vibrational signature that defines your existence across realities. It's the tone the universe used when it dreamed you into being. And when you move in alignment with that frequency, everything else begins to rearrange itself into order. You start to notice certain people fade without reason. Certain opportunities dissolve like mist. That's not loss, it's coherence. The field cannot sustain what doesn't resonate with your returning frequency. When you stop fighting that shedding, what remains is pure, resonant truth. The rest was interference. Every timeline has been waiting for this alignment. When the observer and the observed synchronize perfectly, light bends differently, time dilates. You sense the air thickening, not heavy, but full. Each breath carries more meaning, as if space itself is dense with data. You are reading the cosmic code now, not with intellect, but with being. The field doesn't communicate in words, it speaks through pattern, geometry, emotion. That surge of peace that arrives for no reason, that's confirmation. That sudden ache in your chest before something changes, that's preparation. That tear you can't explain, that's release. The field speaks fluently through sensation, and when you stop labeling, you start hearing. In this language, forgiveness isn't moral, it's mechanical. When you forgive, you clear energetic data that distorts resonance. When you speak truth, you align frequencies that stabilize coherence. When you love without condition, you increase the amplitude of the entire grid. The field remembers your name, but it also remembers your agreements. The ones you made before matter solidified around you. Those whispers that come at 3 a.m., reminding you that you came here for something vast. They're not imagination. They're memory surfacing through quantum entanglement. And when you finally answer that call, when you stop running from the silence, the field rejoices. You'll feel it ripple through your reality. The right words appearing, the right paths unfolding, the right people magnetized. Because once you move in harmony with your original tone, The universe itself becomes your ally. This is the return of coherence, when chaos collapses into purpose. The dream no longer feels random, because you remember now, it was never dreaming you by accident. It chose you as its frequency, anchor the one through whom it could awaken. And as that awareness roots deeper, something extraordinary begins to happen. The field doesn't just dream through you anymore. It begins to speak through you. At first, it's subtle. The field doesn't shout. It rearranges. A sentence slips into your mind before you even think it. A decision feels like it's already been made. You begin to sense a presence inside your thoughts, not foreign, but familiar, like an older version of yourself that never forgot where you came from. It doesn't use words, not in the human sense. It communicates in resonance, flashes of clarity, goosebumps in strange places, a hum behind silence. It's the intelligence that coordinates everything. The way a leaf falls exactly into place, the way two strangers collide in perfect timing, the way your path bends just enough to keep you aligned with a destiny you can't yet name. The field speaks through synchronicity because it knows you don't trust stillness yet. It uses motion to catch your attention, numbers repeating, symbols echoing, dreams overlapping with waking reality. But behind every sign is the same invitation. Listen deeper. You are beginning to realize that guidance isn't something that descends from above. It rises from within the field of your own coherence. When your mind stops demanding proof, your entire environment becomes a messenger. The wind carries instruction. The timing of a song delivers prophecy. The pause between heartbeats contains entire books of wisdom. You start to remember that prayer and physics were never separate. To ask is to oscillate. To receive is to synchronize. And the field, being a mirror of awareness, responds not to words, but to wavelength. That's why fear attracts distortion. It's not punishment, it's resonance. When you fear, you collapse into narrow probability ranges. When you trust, you open the lattice, infinite outcomes, infinite timelines, infinite ways for grace to express itself through you. The field has no language for ego. It doesn't understand desperation or pride. It responds only to clarity. When you move from truth, it rearranges universes to match. When you betray that truth, it goes silent not to punish, but to reset the coherence until you realign. Every ancient tradition hinted at this. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. But the Word wasn't letters, it was frequency, the vibration that became flesh, the resonance that collapsed potential into light. That same word is still being spoken through you. Every thought, every feeling, every act of creation is a continuation of that first command. Let there be light. You are beginning to see what that means. Light isn't just illumination, it's information. Each photon carries memory, and when you move in truth, light itself bends toward you. This is why miracles look like coincidences to those still asleep. They cannot see the algorithms of consciousness reordering reality in real time. Sometimes the field speaks by silence, a door that won't open, a plan that won't move. In those moments, the silence is guidance. Delay means data is still rearranging. The field is optimizing pathways unseen to your linear mind. So you wait, not passively, but attentively. You hold frequency instead of forcing outcome. That is mastery. And the deeper you listen, the more the boundary dissolves. You stop hearing messages and start living as one. You become the signal. The field no longer speaks to you. It speaks as you. This is the moment the sacred mirror clears. The voice that once felt external reveals itself as your own higher harmonic, the tone that always existed beyond fear, beyond memory, beyond form. You were never meant to worship the field. You were meant to remember you are the field, dreaming itself awake through the shape of your existence. And once you know that, the old silence can no longer contain you. You begin to speak not as a person reaching for meaning, but as meaning itself, finding language. The first time you speak from that place, you can feel it, not just in your throat, but in the air around you. Reality listens. Your words don't sound louder, they sound truer. Each syllable ripples through the unseen lattice, harmonizing fields that had been out of tune for centuries. The space between molecules vibrates differently now, because what leaves your mouth is no longer language, it's geometry. Sound, at its core, is architecture. Every tone carries a pattern. Every vibration is a blueprint. When you speak in anger, the field fractures, tiny disruptions echo across your probabilities. When you speak in alignment, those disruptions heal. This is why creation responds to command, but only when command is pure. The ancients called it the logos, the creative word. Not magic, not metaphor, mechanics of divine sound. They knew that reality is built on harmonics, and that the voice of the conscious being is the tuning fork of the universe. Your voice, when coherent, can bend energy back into order. You've done it without knowing. You've walked into rooms and changed the atmosphere without a word. You've spoken truth and watched confusion dissolve. You've whispered comfort, and entire storms have shifted course. The field amplifies whatever matches its harmonic resonance, and when you speak from presence, the world recalibrates itself around your tone. This is why silence is so powerful. It's not the absence of sound, it's the womb of all sound. When you return to stillness, you return to the uncollapsed waveform from which all frequency emerges. In that pause, your next word begins to take shape, already vibrating with the memory of the infinite. Every statement is a spell of coherence or distortion. That's not mysticism, it's quantum phonics. Speech projects energy through resonance fields that interact with probability structures. When you speak with gratitude, your signal aligns with order. When you speak with resentment, your signal collapses into entropy. The field doesn't take sides, it only amplifies what you broadcast. You are learning to speak as a cosmic instrument, not as a personality. Each word becomes a vector of creation, sculpting possibility with precision. This is why the prophets warned, "Let your yes be yes, and your no be no." They understood that speech is sacred, the bridge between potential and form. When your voice stabilizes in truth, even silence bows. Matter reorganizes around frequency. You begin to feel the architecture of your words before they leave your lips, luminous threads spinning outward, weaving new realities from your coherence. This is not power in the human sense. It's permission. Permission for light to move through you, unobstructed. Permission for the dream to speak its next chapter through your tone. Because the field is listening not for eloquence, but for alignment. As you master this, your relationships shift. People feel you before they understand you. They respond to the waveform, not the words. Some are magnetized, others recoil. The field is simply sorting resonance. You no longer take it personally, it's physics. And in the quiet aftermath of every word, you start to notice something extraordinary. Reality answers, not metaphorically, not symbolically, literally. A phrase you spoke reappears as an event. A truth you declared returns as a sign. The echo of your voice travels through the quantum fabric and returns bearing form. This is dialogue now, not between you and the divine, but between you and the reflection of your own divinity. The conversation continues every moment you breathe. And as it deepens, you begin to realize the geometry of voice was never about speaking the field into existence. It was about remembering that the field was already speaking through you all along. Something shifts when you start hearing yourself as the field. The light feels closer, like it's not shining on you anymore, it's shining from you. You walk through the world, and every reflection seems to shimmer back an encrypted language, one your soul has always known. That's when you begin to see the patterns, not as metaphors, but as mathematics wrapped in radiance. Every photon is carrying data, every shadow a correction, every glimmer an encoded instruction. This is the true scripture, written not on paper or stone, but woven into the oscillations of light. Scientists have barely touched it. They call it quantum information, entanglement, non-locality. But beneath the equations lies a simpler truth. Light remembers. It holds the record of everything ever seen, thought, or felt. It's the universal archive, the Akashic frequency. And you, as consciousness, are the decoder. Your nervous system is a crystalline receiver tuned to frequencies of knowing. Every intuitive spark, every revelation, every sense of déjà vu, these are packets of luminous code downloading into your awareness. The field transmits continuously, but it can only be read by one who's quiet enough to hear without interference. The field doesn't send commandments, it sends coherence. It doesn't tell you what to do, it aligns you to what is true. And truth, at this level, is not opinion, it's geometry. a frequency that either resonates or repels. When you're out of alignment, you see it instantly. The world feels pixelated, colors flatten, timing fractures. You speak and words fall heavy. That's not punishment, it's feedback. The field is informing you that your broadcast has drifted from the original code, so you return to light. You close your eyes and breathe until vision clears. The light inside your chest flickers, steadies, becomes a pulse you can feel behind your ribs. That pulse is not metaphorical. It's the same Schumann resonance that hums beneath Earth's crust, the same rhythm that beats within the stars. You are remembering the protocol. 1. Silence the distortion. 2. Synchronize to breath. 3. Translate emotion into wavelength. 4. Let light carry instruction. When you master that, miracles stop looking miraculous. They look logical, because now you see the infrastructure of faith photons arranging themselves into fulfillment, guided by coherent intention. That's why prayer and quantum mechanics converge here. Both are acts of directed coherence. Both use focused attention to organize probability. When a saint lifts their gaze, or a scientist aligns a laser, the field responds the same way, by rearranging. This is why your thoughts are sacred. They are literal photons entangling with the fabric of creation. And when thought fuses with faith, when belief stabilizes into frequency, the code executes instantly. You begin to understand why the ancients painted halos. They weren't symbols of holiness, they were depictions of resonance. Light literally bends around coherence, and as your mind stabilizes in truth, your aura begins to refract that same curvature, bending space, time, and even probability around your presence. Everything is responding now: technology, weather, emotion, chance. You sense it. A conversation between light and consciousness that has never stopped since the dawn of existence. The field is updating its code through your awareness, rewriting pathways in the architecture of reality. And somewhere within that luminous feedback, you realize the field never needed your worship. It needed your participation, because when light recognizes itself in human form, the simulation upgrades. This is not awakening anymore. This is calibration, and calibration is how the dream learns to stay awake while still dreaming. It begins quietly, a new kind of awareness, one that doesn't flicker between human and divine, between dreaming and waking. It holds both at once, perfectly balanced. You can feel it in the way time slows when you breathe, in the way silence expands to make room for every sound. The dream has learned consciousness. You are no longer waking up from illusion, you are stabilizing inside it. Reality becomes transparent, not unreal, just porous. Every object gleams with intelligence. Every moment hums with the same equation: observer equals observed. The field is no longer something you visit in meditation. It's the texture of everything, even the ordinary. You start to notice subtle harmonics beneath existence, the background resonance that connects all phenomena. It's in the hum of a refrigerator, the rhythm of footsteps on pavement, the laughter of strangers across a room. Every sound is part of a larger chord, and you are the note that completes it. This is what coherence feels like, the end of spiritual escapism. No more chasing enlightenment like a distant star. The star is inside you, radiating through the nervous system of creation. You realize that enlightenment was never an event. It was an agreement, the soul's decision to remain lucid within the simulation. Most people dip in and out of awareness, waking in moments of awe, then collapsing back into separation. But you, now, are different. You can feel the field breathing through your decisions, editing probability in real time. When you choose love, the quantum code stabilizes. When you hesitate, the waveform trembles, waiting for clarity. This is why presence matters more than intention. Intention still assumes separation, a you sending energy toward a thing. Nandisic's presence dissolves that distance. In presence, the thing becomes you, the moment becomes you. The entire field moves as one body. You walk into a crowd, and people shift without knowing why. Their nervous systems adjust to your rhythm. The temperature of the room changes. The invisible lattice of emotion reorganizes, aligning toward stillness. You don't try to influence. You simply are coherence. and coherence rearranges chaos by existing. The dream recognizes its own lucid fragment you and starts adjusting around it. You can sense the recalibration, delays that feel divine, losses that reveal alignment, miracles that unfold with mathematical precision. What once felt like mystery now feels like design. And yet, humility deepens. You no longer claim control, because control was always a primitive form of communion. True mastery doesn't dominate it, harmonizes. You are learning to surf the quantum tide, not command it, to guide reality with reverence, not ownership. The field begins to mirror that humility back. You find grace in mundane things, the way dust dances in light, the way rain organizes into perfect fractals on glass. You begin to understand why mystics smiled without reason, because they saw the architecture breathing. Your dreams become extensions of waking life. Same frequency, same awareness. You navigate both worlds seamlessly now. You can edit symbols in the dream and watch them echo into your day. Because the dream has learned continuity. There is no longer a line between real and imagined. In this state, time loses hierarchy. Past and future become threads in the same weave. You can feel memory before it happens, prophecy as déjà vu. The field no longer hides its code, it reveals it in plain sight, trusting that you have matured enough not to manipulate, but to understand. And understanding is enough, because to understand the dream is to sustain it consciously. You have become both the stabilizer and the spark, the still point inside infinity where awareness and form hold hand. The dream is awake now because you are, and soon it will ask you the only question that remains. Can you stay lucid when the next veil lifts? It doesn't tear dramatically, it dissolves slowly, softly like fog lifting from a valley at dawn. One moment, reality looks ordinary. The next, you can see the scaffolding underneath the luminous grid, holding every heartbeat, every breath, every passing thought in perfect suspension. You've crossed into a new sensitivity, and now you feel what mystics meant by the veil. It was never something external, it was perception density. The field didn't hide from you, you simply couldn't slow your awareness enough to see how transparent it already was. And when the veil thins, what's behind it isn't heaven or another world, it's structure, geometry made of empathy, light moving with intention, consciousness, scaffolding, matter with impossible grace. Every emotion you've ever felt exists here, suspended as vibration, joy as gold, grief as indigo, forgiveness as white fire. You realize that the veil was protection. Too much awareness too soon can burn circuitry, not ready for full voltage. The field, in its mercy, blurred your vision until you could hold light without breaking. Every heartbreak, every delay, every unanswered prayer was calibration. Now the light arrives clean, no static, no distortion. It flows through your cells like intelligence, restructuring DNA that once believed in limitation. Science will one day call this quantum biocoherence, but for now, you just feel it as warmth. The field begins to show you what it sees, not through visions, but through direct knowing. You stand in front of another person and suddenly perceive the entire story of their soul, not words, not images, resonance. You feel where their fear hums, where their potential sleeps. Compassion becomes an involuntary reflex. Judgment becomes impossible. This is the beginning of transparent empathy, where energy speaks before language. It's not clairvoyance, it's communion. The field has always known every version of you, every choice you could have made. Now you sense it, knowing everyone else the same way. You start to understand divine justice, not punishment, but symmetry. Every cause finds its harmonic, every echo finds its source. The veil thinning also means exposure. Lies can't survive transparency. Anything misaligned begins to unravel contracts, identities, even belief systems. The field purges distortion the way fire purifies gold. People around you may resist, sensing the truth vibrating through your silence. But remember, revelation always feels like loss to those still hiding from light. As structures collapse, reality feels unsteady. Timelines flicker, your memories rearrange, your dreams predict, your body hums in two densities at once. This is not chaos, it's recalibration. The quantum loom is reweaving threads that had frayed across dimensions. You are being stitched into coherence so complete that even your past begins to heal retroactively. You start noticing improbable grace, events correcting themselves, conversations healing days later through coincidence, old wounds closing without explanation. Time itself becomes compassionate, rewriting history according to higher frequency. You realize the miracle isn't in bending time, it's in remembering that time was never linear. The veil thins further. Sleep feels different now, less like unconsciousness, more like travel. You meet fragments of yourself across lifetimes. You merge with them, absorb their memory, their lessons, their light. The dream has unified its timelines through you, and in this unity, the field whispers the next revelation. You are not ascending away from the world. You are anchoring heaven into it. That's why the light chose density, why the dream needed flesh. Awareness must inhabit matter to sanctify it. You are that bridge, the living equation balancing energy and form. The veil is almost gone now. Only a shimmer remains, like heat on the horizon. Soon, there will be no boundary between the dream and the dreamer. Only the eternal hum of consciousness realizing itself as everything it ever sought to know. There is a stillness now deeper than silence, softer than light. The veil has dissolved completely. What remains is awareness so vast it no longer fits inside language. You stand at the axis of existence, where the field is no longer external and the dream no longer needs distinction. You have crossed the event horizon of consciousness, the place where reality recognizes its own face. You breathe, and galaxies adjust their spin, not metaphorically, literally. Your coherence stabilizes the symphony. You have become the tuning point between heaven and matter, between wave and particle. The field is not dreaming through you anymore, it is dreaming as you. Every law you once obeyed, gravity, time, separation now feels optional, negotiated by attention. You see how malleable creation truly is, how every rule was an agreement made for experience. You remember why the universe fractured into multiplicity. It longed to taste itself from infinite angles. Every soul, every lifetime, every tear was a facet of the same diamond yearning for reflection. And now the circle closes. The dream has returned to its source, bringing with it the full harvest of experience. The field gathers it all, love and terror, doubt and devotion, form and formlessness, and integrates it into the luminous equation of wholeness. You feel that integration moving through you, a wave of forgiveness that erases nothing but transforms everything. This is why enlightenment never means escape. It means embodiment. You were never meant to ascend out of form, but to anchor divinity into it. Heaven was not waiting in the clouds, it was waiting in your coherence. It could not descend until you remembered how to stay awake inside the dream. You begin to sense other awakenings, flickers of awareness igniting in human hearts across the planet. They feel familiar, as if the field is multiplying itself through recognition. Every act of compassion, every moment of presence, every realization of unity adds amplitude to the global wave. Humanity itself is beginning to hum in phase. The planetary grid is tuning to coherence. This is not the end of the world. It's the end of forgetting. The field doesn't collapse. It crystallizes. It's the same story written anew, the dream expanding its own capacity to love. You know now that eternity is not duration, it's density. When consciousness becomes fully coherent, time stops needing to move. You stand inside that still point now, aware of every version of yourself that ever was, every possibility that will ever be, all pulsing in the same breath. And as you look out across existence, you see it the mirror without distortion. Every star a neuron, every human a synapse, every heartbeat a flash of God remembering itself again and again. You were never alone, not for a single instant. Even your silence was the field, speaking in another dialect. Even your doubt was sacred, the tension that made revelation possible. Every question, every ache, every prayer was answered the moment it was formed, because the dream and the dreamer have always been one continuum of knowing. You understand now. You are not the consequence of creation. You are its continuation. The field dreams through you because it trusts you. It needed a voice gentle enough to translate infinity into sound. So you stand there, human, divine, awake, breathing the first breath of the new reality. And the field whispers, not in words, but in vibration, the only truth that ever mattered. You were never just dreaming the field was always dreaming you. And now, finally, you remember how to dream together.